Good evening. My name is Joe Morrison. I am graduating this winter, and for my capstone project, I looked at the correlations in the regular season success, play selection, and expected point average in the National Football League. And today we're going to go over that and my findings. So the purpose of the study is to take a look at it's a quantitative study that evaluates the two main data points, which are expected point average and success rate. And what those are is the expected point average is the expected points based on a drive on the main factor being field position, but also has to do with play calls and things of that nature. And success rate is going to be if a play is successful. And for these two, they each have a split out. You have the drop back, which is the passing game, and then you have rush, which is the run game. And the purpose of this is to see how they correlate into victories in the regular season. When looking at current literature, it's very limited, but there was a study called Moving from Machine Learning to Statistics. And it's the case of expected points average in American football and explores the efficiency of EPA in American football. And this study evaluated data from 2010 to 2022. And the two main points were EPA is a good estimate for offensive efficiency in American football. It isn't necessarily bulletproof. It subject to biases and didn't consider factors such as weather or field conditions. Maybe you could think of something like turf or natural grass, things of that nature. And for this reason, I decided to include success rate in being evaluated in order to enhance our understanding of the relationship to victories in the NFL. And the methodology we took data from RDSM, NFL Next Gen Stats, and Pro Football Reference. And data was used as far back as 1970, as this is considered the post-merger date. So the AFL and NFL merged into what is the modern NFL in 1970, and that's where the Super Bowl comes into play with the AFC and the NFC now. And when we're looking at that, we're looking at historical trends primarily, if we go back that far. But the main focus was looking at data from 2021 to 2024 and testing the correlation between the EPA and the success rate. And finally, what we used to test the correlation was the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. And this took a look at all win totals, and we use this formula to compare to total EPA, total SR or success rate, drop back and EPA, SR, rush, EPA, and SR. But I also included points per games, yards per attempt for drop back, and yards per carry for rush. The reason for this is just so we kind of have some relevant information and kind of continue to expand and understand what we're seeing when we're looking at these correlations. And my hypothesis ultimately was teams with higher regular season win totals will demonstrate a stronger positive correlation between success rate and expected point average in the running game than they would in the passing game. So ultimately, my hypothesis was if you're a better running team, you're going to have a better chance to win versus being a passing strong team. Kind of looking at historical context, as you'll see here, one of the things that I evaluated, I looked at air yards, which is from point of throw to point of catch. So if I throw it from the 10-yard line to the 20-yard line, that is, in essence, 10 air yards. However, while that is increasing, you also saw the average passing yards per team per game by year increase, and also saw the average passing attempts increase as well. So to me, that stood out and said, okay, things are trending towards the passing game, as we're seeing here. But here's where things got a little interesting for me, what kind of drew my hypothesis. The average rushing attempts and rushing yards are decreasing by year, but average yards per rush is steadily increasing. So even though yards and attempts are down, the production in those carries are still going up. So that's where my hypothesis kind of came to play and say, if you have a good rush game that's effective, you're going to be able to win more games. And once we did this correlation, these are the results we found. So this is 2021. As you can see, the highest strength when we're talking about drop back versus rush is drop back EPA, and the success rate were much stronger than rush. And some additional context as well. Yards per carry was also much lower than yards per attempt when we're looking at that. In 2022, it actually gets a little worse for yards per carry and yards per average gap. Still same thing. Drop back is showing a much stronger correlation. Same thing in 2023 and 2024. Now, with that being said, in a historical view, like we mentioned with what leading to the hypothesis, we saw the passing production on the rise, and while the rushing production, some of the metrics were on the decrease, yards per carry were still steadily increasing. But the results of this were very clear that EPA and success rates in drop back were stronger in correlation than in the rush. In essence, this proves our hypothesis was not correct. And while the hypothesis was not correct, one thing I want to highlight is from 2022 to 2024, the rush EPA, success rate, and yards per carry each had a stronger correlation to team wins with each progressing season. So come back here to 2022, you'll see success rates and EPA in the rush and yards per carry all begin to creep up a little bit. And though it's not as strong as drop back, it is interesting in the sense that though it's not as strong as drop back, maybe we're seeing some shifts in the game a little bit. Maybe we're seeing teams adjust, and maybe we're able to look at things in the future and see, are we heading towards a different trend potentially? And with that being said, my study kind of concludes at that, and I am recommending further studies as they could benefit in predicting how effective these measurements are in translating for victories in the NFL, but also maybe seeing if there's future trends involved here soon. And that concludes my presentation. I appreciate your time in watching this, and I look forward to your feedback and questions.